Oh, that was so loud. Oh my gosh. And then I'm going to share my screen. Let me do reading view. Okay, can everybody see that? Okay, cool. So, jumping ahead of myself here. So my topic is information synthesis. A little bit of context about this lesson as far as who the audience is. As students in the information field, as graduate students, you're likely to have already come across so many tasks and projects where you have to synthesize information. So everything you know about information synthesis, just pretend like you don't know anything about it. This lesson is very much more geared towards first-year college students or high school students, or maybe returning students that need a refresher before going into a research project or any research interest on their own time. So it's very introductory level stuff. And little background information on me is that I have the bulk of my professional experience is working at an information center at a community college, where I teach workshops all the time to community college students about stuff like this. There isn't one on information synthesis currently, but it's stuff like database navigation, research skills, how to study for finals, that type of thing. So since that's kind of where I'd like to go with my career, I chose this topic based on that. So information synthesis refers to just combining the knowledge that you learn after you're absorbing multiple sources, and then you're applying your own perspective to these sources. It is a process. It's not just a one-step thing. You have to analyze and evaluate multiple sources, kind of see how they fit together. I've seen people use the metaphor of like a mosaic, or like each information source as like a tile in a piece of art. It all comes together, and depending on the person who's conducting the research, whatever you create out of it can take a different shape. And this depends on what you're interested in, what your field of specialization is, your background knowledge, all of your experiences. They culminate into this mosaic, and it looks different for everybody, even if everybody's using the same pieces of information. So it's actually kind of cool. And then synthesis, so the prefix syn comes from the Greek language meaning with or together, which makes a lot of sense because you're combining multiple pieces of information. I know this is probably stuff you guys already know, but is this making sense so far? Okay, cool. Let me know if you guys have any questions. So this is a graphic that I found from the Central New Mexico Community College website. I thought it was a pretty good way of explaining how there are different strategies that work together to synthesize information. So you're going to report the info, not word for word, but you're going to paraphrase it and kind of use your own language to elaborate what you've learned. And then you want to organize the information in a way that your intended audience will be able to absorb it properly. And then you also want to insert yourself into this process. What do you think about it? What inferences and conclusions and thoughts are you drawing? Do you see any gaps in research? Do you notice a need for more research in a certain area because there hasn't been a lot of it yet? Ultimately, you want to create something new, some deeper understanding either for yourself or others based on this, whatever you've learned. So this kind of repeating this, but more specifically. So there's a lot of different reading comprehension strategies and writing strategies that go into putting together something for information synthesis. So like an example assignment could be writing a literature review in anticipation of writing a research paper, or it could be you're planning to do a research project and you just need to learn more about what people in the field are saying and what they aren't saying, and where they disagree and agree. And over time, you'll start to see, themes And so you'll want to organize it not by author, but by theme that you find, either if it's differences in opinion, similarities in opinion, or different issues. And this evolves the more and more you read. So here, this middle one, here at the bottom, I say ripple effect, because I think this is a really good analogy. When you start research, that's the initial, like you're dropping a pebble into a pond, and the more research you do, the bigger the ripple grows, because you're thinking, oh, wow, that's really interesting. Maybe I should look for a different piece of research about this. And you'll see different angles. And basically, depending on who you are as a person, your area of research and the scope and the direction that it takes will be completely different, just depending on who you are. So, so I think that's pretty cool. And then this original work is a big part of it that I feel like a lot of people miss when they do literature reviews, is you want to offer some kind of insight, like I said earlier, either for yourself or for whoever your intended audience is, to take, like say you want to offer something new to the field, or you just want to broaden your own understanding, then you'll be able to demonstrate that in writing. But it shouldn't just be restating what happened or what people said. You want to add yourself into it, insert yourself into the conversation. So information synthesis is not summarizing two or more sources, because you're inserting yourself as well. And also, it's not literary analysis. I'm sure we've all, for an English class at some point, had to read something and write like a 3 to 4 page paper where we don't need any additional sources. It's just making a conclusion based on analyzing. It's not that. It's not comparing and contrasting, because you're inserting yourself in there as well. And while you do use retelling, restatement, and paraphrasing, that's not the full picture, because like I said earlier, you want to insert yourself into the conversation and make assertions and conclusions, and maybe make a claim that something's working or something isn't, or there's more research that needs to be done on the topic. Everybody with me? All right, cool. So for this, for an activity, the two book excerpts that I attached, they are really simple and short, because we only have 20 minutes to do this. So what I want you guys to do is just take a couple minutes and read the excerpts, and then take another couple minutes after that to just, whether it's a combination of your interests, your background knowledge, or even if you want to choose a third topic or a third source, brainstorm ideas for directions that you would take this based on the two sources that you read. And it's not like a trick activity. It's not supposed to be difficult. This is just supposed to demonstrate that depending on who you are and what your interest is, you could read the same sources as another person and go in completely different directions with it. So it's kind of cool as an introduction to information synthesis, because it shows how unique everyone really is in terms of where they take information or how they want to use information. So yeah, take about 4 minutes to do that, and then we will share what we found. And I guess I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you guys can just focus on the excerpts. But does everybody understand what we're doing? Okay, cool. Okay, how's everybody doing so far? Okay, are we ready or do you need more time? Sharon, how about you? You need more time? You're good to go? Okay, cool. So I guess we'll start with Joel. What?
Sounds good. The title I came up with, I'm just gonna throw it in the chat. Secrets of the Hydrosphere, exploring the monsters hidden in dark waters.
Ooh, that's
So just kind of combining the hydrosphere topic of the Planet Earth document and the lesser known creatures that live in the midnight and twilight zone of the ocean from the ocean life document.
that's what I was. That's the first thing I thought about because I love anglerfish and like creepy deep sea creatures because they look kind of like aliens.
Yeah.
Okay, love that. Let's go with Sharon next.
I'll write it in the chat.
Okay,
So I don't know if this is good, but I'll put what I put.
I'm sure it's great.
Sorry, I just can't spell.
Take your time. Sea monsters of the deep, creatures in the deepest, darkest depths. Okay, so that's funny because you actually took it the same direction as Joel.
I did.
I guess because that's just the coolest thing of, like that was from those two sources. I don't know. It's just a cool topic. I don't. That's kind of why I chose it. Um, but good job. What about you, Justine?
So I took it in a little different direction. I love how it starts off. I read the Planet Earth one first and it talks about the different atmospheres of Earth. But then the second one talks about the atmospheres or about the spheres that are not what you would typically think of. And so I took it in the direction of alien planets. So how life exists here and could exist other places. So
Ooh, I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
That is so cool. Okay, so my hope for this was that everybody would come up with completely different things. But of course, nothing ever turns out as planned. But I'm going to share my screen again. And okay, there we go. So I just came up with some really quick when I was putting together the slides. Why is it not change? Oh, there we go. Sunlight's effect on plant and animal ecosystems, how oxygen impacts animal evolution, anglerfish and bacteria, a symbiotic relationship, land mammals versus sea mammals, an exploration, or sunlight's effect on the body temperature of sharks, a study. So this is just kind of to exemplify the fact that the same people can read the same exact sources and come up with completely different ideas depending on their backgrounds and interests and whatever they want to do with that information. So although Joel and Sharon's ideas were kind of similar, they were not the same, and I doubt that the complete project would look the same. And if this was a real hour-long lesson, we'd also be learning how to actually integrate everything together and practice actually writing these things down. But for the purpose of time, we're not going to do that. So thank you everybody for coming to my presentation. That is all I have for you.
Thank you very much. It was very good.
Thank you, Sharon. I really appreciate you being here. And everybody, obviously. But Sharon, you hopped in last minute, and Justine, this is your second today, or?
No, this is my third today. This
Oh my
is
gosh.
my fourth. Oh yeah, I'm stealing everybody's ideas. It's okay.
But I'm
That's
glad I
actually-
saw yours because mine is very I'm talking about Hitchcock's trademarks and motifs, and I'm using video a lot. And I was thinking to also have a handout to like send at the beginning with extra information that they might want to take with them. But right now my presentation doesn't have a lot of text because I learn best through video. So I thought other people might, and I can explain, as things go. And if anybody has questions, I'm really knowledgeable on the subject. But
Incorporating for different learning styles. Yes. Before I stop recording, I completely forgot I have one more slide, just kind of like,
oh, sure, please do.
so sorry. Oh my gosh, embarrassing. Okay, tying everything together. So hopefully from this, if you were, in the appropriate audience, beginner in high school, returning student, first year college freshman, you would know the role that information synthesis has in the context of research, school, and just life in general, because whether you know it or not, you're always taking information from different places and compiling it in your head. There are strategies and steps involved, which we covered. And then also you should hopefully take from this that you as a unique human, you have your own experience that you can, assign to things, and this will kind of inform the way that you use information. And I think that that's pretty cool, because if everybody was the same, then we would never learn anything. Okay, now I'm done.
One question before you go that I'd love for you to speak to. How do you handle when information sources do not line up together? So for instance, these two samples that you gave us, if they gave us different information about the same topics that conflicted with one another, how do you address that?
I would specific, because you don't want to skew what you're writing to say, like, for example, confirmation bias. People always tend to look for things that confirm their beliefs. If you see in the research that two different sources conflict with each other, you want to say that. And you also want to try and figure out why that's happening, to see how that can be rectified, or, maybe identify a gap in research where that could be filled up. And maybe there's, it does require some investigation, but it is worth it in the end. And you want to be honest to your audience if you find conflicting information. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, very well. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. And I will see all of you in class. All right.
I just have one more question. Do we